Imagine yourself transported to Jerusalem at the height of Solomon's reign. The rising sun illuminates the golden city, reflecting off the imposing walls of the temple, a monument of unprecedented power and devotion. The air is thick with the scent of sacred incense burning in the inner courtyards, while priests and Levites prepare the daily rituals. But behind the magnificence of this holy empire, there was another world, a world of disputes, seduction, and dark secrets. How did Solomon divide his time among the 1,000 women who inhabited his harem? What rituals took place in the heart of his palace? And even more intriguing, what was the supernatural being he kept under control through his legendary ring? Prepare yourself, for what you are about to discover may change everything you've ever heard about the wisest king in history. Solomon's temple was not merely a building. It was a statement of grandeur and devotion. Built atop Mount Moriah, its construction demanded a monumental effort. Over 180,000 men labored for 7 years to raise this marvel. Cedars from Lebanon, the noblest wood of the era, were transported in caravans that traveled thousands of kilometers. Phoenician artisans, the most skilled in the ancient world, carved every detail with superhuman precision. The temple boasted impressive dimensions, 30 meters long, 10 meters wide, and 15 meters high in its main area alone. Its walls were clad in pure gold, reflecting the dawn's light like a divine beacon. In the Holy of Holies, the sacred heart of the temple, rested the Ark of the Covenant, guarded by colossal cherubim carved from olive wood and covered in gold. Only the high priest could enter this place once a year on the Day of Atonement. The scent of sacred incense filled the air, creating an atmosphere of mystery and reverence. Beyond the temple's splendor, Solomon established an innovative administrative system. 24 divisions of priests took turns to ensure the rituals never ceased. Each division had specific duties, from maintaining the golden lamps to preparing the showbread, renewed every Sabbath. But while the temple was the spiritual heart of the kingdom, the true center of power lay elsewhere, the royal harem. Solomon's palace was a veritable labyrinth of opulence, a universe unto itself, where hundreds of women lived with a single goal: to capture the king's attention. 700 royal wives and 300 concubines inhabited this secret world, where political alliances were forged, intrigues were woven, and passions were cultivated with unmatched fervor. The harem was not just a place of pleasure, but an instrument of power and influence. Each wife represented a strategic alliance with a neighboring kingdom. The daughter of the pharaoh, for instance, held a privileged position, residing in a separate palace adorned with hieroglyphs and furnished with the finest Egyptian pieces. Her entourage included dozens of servants, musicians, and dancers, making her an imposing presence within the court. The harem was organized like a city within the palace. Royal wives occupied the upper floors, overlooking fragrant gardens and marble fountains. Concubines resided on the lower levels, still luxurious, but less grandiose. Each woman had her own retinue of servants, and her quarters were richly decorated with the finest fabrics and rare jewels. But life in the harem was not merely one of luxury and beauty. The competition for the king's favor was fierce. Special scribes kept detailed records of each wife and concubine, her origins, the gifts she received, her political alliances, and most importantly, any children born from her union with Solomon. Managing this world required an army of staff, stewards, guards, physicians, and midwives, all tasked with maintaining order and ensuring every detail adhered to strict protocol. The rituals preparing a woman for a night with the king were elaborate and meticulously planned. The chosen one was discreetly announced at dawn by a special messenger, initiating a lengthy beautification process. First, she was taken to the House of Purifications, where she bathed in 7 different pools, each scented with rare oils like myrrh, aloe, and cassia. Her 7 attendants tended to every detail. Her hair was washed with aromatic oils and braided with gold threads. Her skin was treated with a secret blend of honey, goat's milk, and exotic essences. The garments chosen for the night were made of the finest fabrics, dyed with colors derived from precious minerals. Jewels were selected not just for their beauty, but for their symbolic meaning. The royal chamber was prepared with equal care. Golden censers burned exotic fragrances, flower petals were scattered over silk sheets, and oil lamps were strategically placed to create a seductive glow. Specialized musicians played soft melodies inspired by the Song of Solomon, crafting an atmosphere of romance and mystery. Within this universe of luxury and rivalry, the women of the harem sought ways to stand out. Some used their intelligence and culture to win the king's attention, engaging in discussions about politics and philosophy. Others honed artistic talents, composing poetry, crafting perfumes, or developing mesmerizing dances. Servants were key players in this game of influence, carrying secret messages and closely observing everything that transpired in the palace corridors. Yet there was something even more mysterious within Solomon's realm. It is said the king possessed a ring with supernatural powers, an artifact that allowed him to control spiritual entities. Ancient legends claim this ring bore the sacred name of God, enabling Solomon to command demons to serve his court. Some accounts say he forced them to labor on his palaces and temples, using forces that defied human understanding. The Testament of Solomon, a mystical text attributed to the king himself, describes how he interrogated demons, learning their names, powers, and weaknesses. This knowledge was supposedly recorded in secret books, sought by magicians and sages through the centuries. But even with all this wisdom, Solomon knew his power came solely from God, and without divine guidance, even the wisest king was prone to error. What happened to Solomon's harem when his devotion began to waver? And what were the spiritual consequences of his foreign wives' influence over him? In the next section, you'll uncover the darkest secrets of this legendary king and how his choices shaped Israel's fate. As the years passed, the harem's influence over Solomon extended beyond politics and pleasure. Each foreign wife brought not only her beauty but also her culture, customs, and above all, her gods. Initially, the king allowed his wives to continue their rituals as a diplomatic gesture, but tolerance soon turned into involvement. Gradually, Solomon grew curious about these mysterious rites, until eventually he began participating in them actively. The king, chosen by God to build the sacred temple and guide Israel in the ways of justice, now found himself entangled in pagan ceremonies held within the palace gardens. The hills around Jerusalem became dotted with altars dedicated to foreign deities. Astarte, Moloch, and Baal received lavish offerings, while foreign priests were welcomed into the king's palace. Hebrew prophets and priests began warning of the consequences of this apostasy, but their voices were drowned out by the rituals and celebrations now dominating the court. The people of Israel, seeing their king bow to strange gods, began to question their own faith. Many followed his example and took up pagan worship. The scent of incense, once offered solely to God, now mingled with the exotic fragrances of occult rituals. The temple, once an immaculate symbol of the covenant between God and Israel, began to lose its spiritual sway. But Solomon's troubles were not confined to the religious sphere. Managing such a vast and luxurious empire began to strain the kingdom's finances. Maintaining a harem of 1,000 women was not just a matter of pleasure and political status, but a colossal financial burden. Each wife demanded a lifestyle befitting her rank: precious jewels, garments of linen and purple, personal servants, extravagant feasts, and luxurious quarters. Beyond that, an entire army of staff was needed to keep the harem's order and structure intact. Stewards, guards, physicians, scribes, and messengers devoted their lives to administering this empire of seduction and power. To sustain this opulent lifestyle, Solomon began raising taxes on the people. What were once moderate tributes became a heavy burden. Additionally, the king imposed forced labor to maintain the palace's operations and construct new temples and fortifications. The people of Israel, who at the start of Solomon's reign had brimmed with pride for their wise and prosperous king, began to grumble against his leadership. Entire tribes showed signs of discontent, and dissatisfaction spread rapidly among the citizens. As Solomon's empire crumbled from within, the intrigues within the harem intensified. The king's aging sparked an even fiercer rivalry among his wives. The younger ones vied for his favor, while the older ones fought desperately to retain their influence. Some employed subtler tactics, like manipulation and intellect, joining the king in discussions on politics and philosophy. Others took the path of art and seduction, composing poetry, crafting unique fragrances, or devising enchanting dances to captivate the ruler's heart. Within the palace corridors, every gesture, glance, and gift carried hidden meaning. Secret messages were exchanged between wives through loyal servants. A simple perfume might contain a coded message. A ring discreetly given could signify a silent alliance between two rival women. In an environment where every detail mattered, the wives and concubines turned the harem into a true battlefield where the most powerful weapon was not strength, but cunning. Yet the true impact of Solomon's harem lay not just in politics or economics, but in Israel's very destiny. Astonishingly, despite having 1,000 women, the Bible mentions only one son of Solomon, Rehoboam. However, historians believe dozens of other princes and princesses were born within the palace, each representing a link in a vast web of alliances and power struggles. For these children, life in the palace was steeped in luxury, but fraught with danger. The birth of a prince was a political event, capable of sealing an alliance with distant kingdoms or igniting bloody rivalries within the harem itself. Every mother did everything in her power to ensure her child received the best education, the finest tutors, and the greatest opportunities. Teachers came from far-off lands, instructing in languages, philosophy, science, and military strategy. Knowledge was a weapon as potent as any army. Rehoboam, Solomon's son, with the Ammonite Naamah, grew up in an environment of extremes. On one hand, he received a traditional Israelite education rooted in the law of Moses. On the other, he was heavily influenced by the diverse cultures and traditions present in his father's harem. This duality shaped his personality into something indecisive and impulsive, a trait that would later prove fatal to the kingdom's future. In his final years, Solomon recognized the mistakes he had made. Some scholars believe the Book of Ecclesiastes attributed to him reflects his late repentance. A king who had amassed limitless wealth, power, and pleasure now pondered the vanity of it all. Yet it was too late to alter Israel's fate. After his death, Rehoboam took the throne, but his lack of political skill led the kingdom to collapse. Exhausted by high taxes and forced labor, the people begged Rehoboam to lighten their load. Instead of heeding the elders' counsel, he followed the advice of the young men in his court and increased the tributes further. The result was catastrophic. The northern tribes rebelled, splitting Israel into two kingdoms. Solomon's glory crumbled before his descendants' eyes. But what became of Solomon's legendary ring? The artifact that, according to ancient accounts, granted him power over spiritual entities. Mystical texts claim Solomon possessed a ring engraved with the sacred name of God, capable of controlling demons. It is said he used these spirits to erect his grand structures, forcing them to haul massive stones and shape precious metals. Some tales suggest the ring also allowed him to unlock the universe's deepest secrets, from the healing properties of plants to the mysteries of creation. The Testament of Solomon, an ancient apocryphal manuscript, describes how he interrogated and commanded demons, learning their names and weaknesses. This knowledge was supposedly recorded in mystical books sought by magicians and alchemists for centuries. Yet when Solomon strayed from God's path, he lost his mastery over these supernatural forces. Some legends claim the ring was hidden in a secret location, awaiting the day a new wise king might wield it again. If you believe in the power of God and the importance of wisdom, comment, "My faith stands firm in the Lord." And don't forget to leave your like as an act of faith. Now click the video appearing on your screen to uncover the hidden mysteries of the Ark of the Covenant and its true power.